Okay, so this is going to try and be an unedited version of the Husqvarna Mark II 120. I think it's a 14-inch. Okay, so I've had it at least 3 years. Got it from Sydney Tools because it was a little bit cheaper to buy it interstate for a courier than a dealer. To be honest with you, this is they're like the cheap cheap Huskies they are, I'd say. They don't feel, but then no chainsaw manufacturer these days feel like they used to feel. I haven't nothing go wrong with it. To say the least, in that 3 years I haven't used it every day. I've mainly used it for firewood seasons, cut trees off fences, mainly hardwoods like this Jarrah, and I've cut logs, probably in the time that I've had it, I've cut, apart from the other jobs I've done, I've cut 3 logs longer than this and twice the thickness of this. So proper firewood sized trees, and they had no trouble. I think I cut one small tree down, but about the size, if you can see it in the camera on my right, these ones in front. I've cut dead trees like that down with it. Had to go around the other side. As you know, people say that chainsaw's too small to do that job. Not really. They can pretty much cut down a decent tree if you go around the other side and cut that side as well. And as long as it's sharp. Now this one's not sharp, so don't put, oh yeah, you need to sharpen it. I already know that. They're a little bit coarse still, the shavings, so I'm going to run it on Jarrah. But apart from that, I would say as a chainsaw, good chainsaw for homeowner, it would last a lifetime. For a small hobby farmer, just for small jobs, or to keep in the 4-wheel drive when you're going around the paddock, probably lasts 30-40 years. I'm not sure about parts these days and how long they last. I don't think anything's designed to last a long time, but as far as being like the dodgy Chinese ones, this one will last. The only faults I found with it is, like a lot of different chainsaws I'm using nowadays, when they conk out, they don't like being started hot for some reason sometimes. I don't know why that is. Also, I seem to keep knocking the off switch with my thumb. I sort of like where the Steels have their off switch, because this one, my thumb will drift and I'll bump the off switch, or I'll be doing it and get lazy or something, and then my thumb lifts up and I knock the switch off, and then it's a problem to start. So, great little chainsaw. I had my Steel stolen, which was about the size of this. Can't remember what model it was, but I got the Husky because I've never owned a Husky, and yeah, typical what you'd expect. And I wouldn't say use it every day to do, like, obviously arborist jobs, because that's not what they're designed for. But I've had it 3 years, cut up 3 decent logs, a lot of fallen branches on fences, fell one tree with it, and it hasn't had anything go wrong with it. So, to be honest with you, they're worth buying for that purpose of just small use. And I'm going to run it on this Jarrah, and we'll see it in action. Remember, it's blunt, so it's going to be a little bit slower and less stressful on it. Okay, good to go, yep. Okay, so I'm going to try it with the fuel. Try it with fuel. Might not try it with choke. Maybe a little bit of quarter choke. Doesn't look like it's going to need it. example. Okay, look, I'm surprised how much you get out of full tank out of this thing too. Like, I've cut a whole tree that length up, bigger than that. Probably not much bigger or longer, but, and it never ran out of fuel. So I think, you know, as you breathed in that sawdust. Now, as you can see, the sawdust down there's quite chunky still, but but I always like to leave stumps like that. I cannot stand how people leave them, you know, a foot tall or 8 foot. It's just a waste of firewood. There's a whole ring of firewood in the base. That's what I think makes a poor chainsaw. Don't quote me on my chainsawing either, because there's no such thing as a perfect guy, or woman. But it's sharp chainsaw, maintained well, decent cuts. You can cut anything down basically. So the way to tell if a chainsaw is good is show someone who's only half knowledgeable at chainsaws and say, I cut a tree down with this size chainsaw. And if they turn and say, what? Then you know you've got a good chainsaw, I suppose. And you know how to use it probably. So I've had that from this chainsaw. Look, you can't, if you're going to have problems with a Husky or a Stilt, you might as well, where else do you go? So, as the bottom of the line Husky, that is the perfect chainsaw for its money. And Stihl, what is it, the MS 181 or 180 or something like that? They make the smaller one that matches that. I would have went Stihl because they always make them a bit cheaper, but I just wanted the Husky because I've never had a Husky, so I would give it a really good reliability rating. Don't ask me about 1 out of 10 or any of that sort of stuff. I hope you can hear me because I've had my earmuffs on the whole time. If not, I'll just do a talk over video. So in case I forgot to mention, Husqvarna 120 Mark II. Most basic of the Huskies you can pretty much buy. And haven't done a service on it, oil filters or anything like that. I'm not bothered. All I want to know is I brought something that's going to outlast the warranty and it's going to work. So that's pretty much it. Any other questions, just ask. So you can't get much of a example of what, if you're wondering about the Australian version in your American saying, this is marginata, Eucalyptus marginata, which is called Jarrah. It's one of our favourite woods for furniture and structural timber because it's a hardwood, smells beautiful, burns beautiful, it's slow and hot burning like a coal, and yeah, wood has been used to make ships all around the world, railway tracks and all that sort of thing, furniture. So yep, I'll leave it with that. I'm just going to try and quickly think of anything else. And I can't think of anything else other than... I know I just brought a steel, can't remember what model that is, pole saw. And I found that uses the oil before the fuel, and that's what you want to watch of a chainsaw. I think this one uses the fuel before the oil, and they should do that. That way you don't run the bar dry, but like I said, it's good on fuel. And yep, hope the video is mainly about just seeing this chainsaw, if you're in a foreign country, used on a foreign wood in another country. Now this is temperate region. So when you buy a steel in Australia, you don't need to worry too much about the, well, maybe there are some cold places over east, but you don't have to worry about it generally being too cold to start a chainsaw. Because we don't get it pretty much below, I think, what is it, 30 degrees Celsius. We don't get it for freezing, whereas here we freeze on 0 degrees in Celsius. So Fahrenheit's 30, 33, we don't go below freezing point. Only a few places in Australia do that, and they're up high. So they run really good during summer, and that might be when it starts to play up, because I got it to start then just with half choke, or quarter choke, and it started once I used that. So I would say it was actually cold. But I think when they're really hot, and we get it up to like 115 degrees here, or what is it, 45 degrees Celsius temperature cutting, that's when I think they refuse to start sometimes. Unless there's a technique that, you know, so in a temperate, that was in temperate conditions today. We're winter here, start of winter, but our winter is in Celsius degrees, around about 24 degrees, which is a perfect temperature.